Welcome to the Observers Direct, the show in which we go meet our observers in person. We travel to northern Mexico, near the border with the United States. Now, the area has always been dangerous for the millions of Latin Americans who make the crossing illegally every year. There is a new twist, though. Authorities say they are seeing more and more unaccompanied children make the crossing, apparently sent by their parents because of rumours which are false that children get special treatment by US immigration. My colleague Julien Pin travelled to Mexico to meet our observer, Gilda.
Bonjour, Gilda.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas
¿Cómo
tardes.
estás?
Bien. Les quiero mostrar la línea.
I wanted to show you the fence that separates Nogales, Sonora and Nogales, Arizona. This is where people cross the border illegally over the fence. There are more and more children now crossing the border. They're hoping to join their parents, who are already in the United States.
So the US is just there. What are they doing? Why are they talking through the fence?
They can't cross the border. They have family on the other side, so they come here to talk. They have no choice. They don't have the right documentation.
Are you going to try and cross?
No.
You're staying here.
I'm waiting until I can enter the US legally.
How will you do that?
I'll wait until I have a visa, proper documentation.
He has to marry her, then he'll get the papers he needs. But he's still a minor and has to wait until he's legally old enough to marry.
Gilda takes us to the Don Bosco shelter, where they bring migrants caught trying to cross the border into the US or who have just been deported. Gilda has been running this shelter for 32 years, and every evening she registers the new arrivals.
I'm registering the people who'll be staying here tonight.
How many are there?
57.
Are there ever any children staying here?
It depends. We have one staying on May 12th. He was 15 years old. There are two written down here. One was 12, the other was 16, and this one was 16. He was from El Salvador. He was travelling on his own.
Most of the children and teenagers trying to travel to the US are stopped by the American border control agents and escorted back to the other side of the border a few days later. Gilda takes us to the Camino a Casa, a safe house for these unaccompanied children. Hello.
Hi, how are you? When the Americans catch children trying to cross the border on their own, in either direction, they bring them here because they are not accompanied by an adult. Our job is to find their families and make sure they get home safely.
Are there a lot of unaccompanied children?
Yes, we took in 16,000 children last year. All of them were travelling alone.
We talked to some of these children. They come from remote provinces in Mexico and also Central America. Herson, for example, is from Chiapas. He paid money to be smuggled across the border, but the journey didn't end well.
After leaving my home, I travelled on a bus for 4 days. The smugglers locked me in a house with around 100 other people. We were squeezed in together like that for 3 days. On the 4th day, they came to collect us in the middle of the night and took us to the border. Then we walked for 5 days. We were given very little water. We were so thirsty we ended up handing ourselves in to the border patrol.
There are some 30 children in this shelter. We met 2 brothers who were caught trying to cross the border with their father. Where's your father?
He's in Tucson. They put him in prison.
Why did they separate you from him?
Because he's already tried to cross the border a few times, so they arrested him.
What was the journey like?
It was going well, but then we heard a noise. There was a helicopter above us, and they saw us. My father said, "Run, they've seen us," but we couldn't run anymore.
and they caught you.
Yes.
And your mother's in the US?
Yes.
When did you last see her?
8 years ago.
And what's going to happen to you now your dad's in jail?
My Uncle Matthias is coming to get us, I think. And then we'll try and cross the border again.
Most of these children travel to the US border by train. They climb on top of the freight train known as La Bestia that runs through Mexico. When they are just a few hundred meters away from the border, they jump off in full view of the Mexican police.
They're migrants trying to cross the border.
And there's nothing you can do?
We leave them to it. They just want to get past.
You don't stop them?
No. We just make sure they don't stay here or go through the barrier.
They may be paid several $1,000s, but the smugglers often leave the children alone in the desert. Stifling heat and drug traffickers are real dangers here, but their biggest fear is a US border patrol. We head across the border to talk to one of the officers.
Well, just last year we apprehended just under 121,000 illegal aliens.
And how many of them are children, juvenile?
I believe we actually apprehended approximately, I think just a little more than 10,000 juveniles were apprehended last year. How you doing there? All right. You having anything been going on today?
Not so far. It's been quiet.
They got it quiet out here?
Had a couple come up and over the fence, but they went back south.
Have they had any recent groups lately with any juvies in any of the groups lately?
I'd say probably Monday.
Monday?
Caught a 15 or 16-year-old.
15, 16-year-old? Okay.
It was, he had two other people with him.
Two other people. And they was adults, though? Two adults?
Yeah, it was two Chinese.
Two, okay.
So
well, all right. Thanks, buddy. You have a good one. And as you kind of can see, this is where even like the bollard-style fencing actually stops. Right here, just in front, right in front of us here to the south. And then it kind of turns into this barbed wire-style fencing.
It seems to be pretty easy for a migrant to jump over that fence, right?
Does it? Well, something here, like you say, regardless what fence you have, they can always create a ladder just as high. When we look at fencing, it basically provides us with more time to respond.
Once over the wall and past the first set of US border control agents, they trek towards the nearest towns. We come to a small town called Amado to meet with a volunteer group that helps migrants in distress.
Yeah, hi.
Julian.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Hi.
So we're going to put water out in the desert, and these are the trails that the migrants follow. It takes them about 6 days to get from the border to Tucson, and they're in very remote areas, and when they get in trouble, there's nobody to help them.
At least 400 migrants have died in the desert over the past 10 years, mostly of dehydration.
We were coming up on our waypoint, and somebody saw 3 migrants running through the desert, and we wanted to help them. I think we scared them off.
I found that nearby.
Right.
What is that?
They put them over their shoes so they don't leave tracks in order to hide from the Border Patrol. That's what they wear.
So where did they get that, you said?
In Altar, Sonora.
Is that also where they get these?
And that is where they get this, too. The migrants buy the black bottles to carry their water because it doesn't show up quite as much as white bottles. How many gallons of water does it take a day for a person to...
At least 2 gallons.
At least.
Despite the danger, the cost, and the strong possibility they're going to get caught, a growing number of children are trying to travel across the desert. We head to Tucson, Arizona, to talk to immigration attorney Nina Rabin.
Do you know why there's so many children coming to the US? Why now?
I think everybody is asking themselves that. I think there are a number of factors. The one that seems the most likely is the gang violence, that it's just so extreme. I think that another reason is that there's increasing numbers of these kids that were left behind by their parents when they were very little, who are now getting older and are coming to find their parent. I think that the immigration system is not well designed to handle this problem at all. All immigrants are not well equipped to kind of navigate through the immigration system, but kids obviously are even less able to do so, and there's no right to any kind of representative through the immigration process.
There are currently hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants stuck in the US, mothers and fathers who can't go back and forth over the border and who would do anything to be reunited with their children, despite the risks. Our observer Gilda will carry on helping these immigration orphans with what little means she has. But if the US authorities fail to acknowledge the extent of the problem, Gilda may not be able to help them all for much longer.
President Obama has called the unaccompanied children at the border an urgent humanitarian situation. He has instructed federal agencies to provide food, shelter and counseling to them. We hope that will make things easier for Gilda and the people she's trying to help. Now remember, we need you to help us make this show. So if there's a problem in your community that you think the world needs to know about, get in touch. Maybe we'll come see you for the next Observers Direct.